您拨打的用户暂时无法接通，请稍后再拨。Sorry.
This is the most worrying thing since the beginning of Chu Wu. That is, the eldest sister, Gong Ling, is missing. But equally in danger are Xiao Ye, Lao Ba, and Zhang Zha. At this moment, Lao Ba's head has already smashed a big hole in the wall. It's not hard to guess that this was done by the village chief's son, who doesn't know how to hold back. Fortunately, Chu Wu's physique is strong enough. Although Lao Ba looks like a mess, his injuries are not serious at all. When Lao Ba learned that the village chief's son could hide the Shange Hui within his body, he understood why this guy could approach them silently. So now, he bluntly raised the question in his mind, which is, you are the mastermind behind all of this, aren't you? However, that tall guy still didn't say a word, as if he couldn't hear at all. Lao Ba, being ignored, was very unhappy, until he raised his voice again. Did he finally get the tall guy's attention? However, this guy's eyes were still cold, making it impossible to guess what he was thinking. Lao Ba ignored these things, and instead, with a serious face, shouted loudly, "Answer me!" This loud roar was like a booming bell, making the tall guy keenly aware that something was wrong. But he didn't have time to react at all. He realized that someone was approaching from behind. It turned out to be Xiao Ye who had arrived. He suddenly appeared behind the tall guy and said with a stern face, "He's asking you a question." In an instant, lightning erupted. Xiao Ye struck the tall guy's face with a palm. This thunderous blow was extremely powerful, directly sending the village chief's son flying out. The huge booming sound even reached the ears of Zhang Zha and Lao Dao. They were startled, quickly turning their heads to look around, fearing more danger was coming. But it was just this turning around that the dried corpse, originally broken into pieces, suddenly moved. On Xiao Ye's side, as the tall guy was sent flying by a slap, Lao Ba also stood up unsteadily. So now, it's 2 against 1. Touching the wound on his neck, the village chief's son, who had been silent all along, finally deigned to speak, perhaps surprised that someone could hurt him. The tall guy's first words were actually a question. "Who are you people?" This was a crucial moment. As Xiao Ye solemnly said the 4 words Li Song Chu Wu, Lao Ba appropriately struck a very cool pose. However, the tall guy was unmoved by all of this. Instead, he changed the subject and asked a second question. "Is that woman with you?" Perhaps the topic changed a bit too quickly. This question actually made both of them not react. Seeing this, the tall guy added, "I mean the woman who moves very fast." As soon as these words came out, Xiao Ye suddenly realized that this guy was talking about should be the eldest sister, Gong Ling. So at this moment, Xiao Ye and Lao Ba's faces simultaneously darkened. After a moment of dead silence, Xiao Ye asked in a deep voice, "Where is she?" When he asked these 3 words, his heart was extremely anxious, hoping to get clues about the eldest sister from the village chief's son. However, the tall guy's voice was still icy cold. He also only replied with 3 words, "She's dead." When the village chief's son said these 3 words expressionlessly, Zhao and Lao Ba were surprisingly unmoved. The three big men with cold faces stood still.
气氛竟然有些让人捉摸不透。可是宫灵为什么联系不上呢？
But why can't we contact Gong Ling?
在当时
Gong Ling had just received the clue synchronization from Xiao Ye and was preparing to retreat along the original route, but turned around and saw a tall figure holding a long knife. Since then, Gong Ling has been missing and cannot be contacted anymore. Perhaps this tall guy does know the inside story, but just saying she's dead like this, Xiao Ye absolutely cannot believe it. So in the next moment, he burst out, striking the tall guy's face directly with a palm. And that tall guy reacted extremely quickly, barely managing to retreat sharply backwards. Although it seemed he wasn't hit, there were still a few streaks of blood left on his face. Seeing this, Xiao Ye didn't pursue, but instead commented disdainfully, "With your skills, you couldn't possibly hurt her." Lao Ba laughed out loud upon hearing this, mocking the tall guy for just pretending to be tough. "You can't even beat me, the number one of Li Songguan. And you still want to challenge the eldest sister of the Guan? Don't you know that the one who's really dead is you? You say you finally returned to the human world with great difficulty, and you don't even know how to cherish the opportunity to be human, but instead possessed someone else's son, causing such tragic things in the mountains. What were you even thinking?" Lao Ba was puzzled, holding his chin. However, to all his questions, the tall guy didn't say a word, just silently stood up. And Xiao Ye was also impolite, and directly asked, "How exactly did you inject Shange Hui into the gold?" Hearing this, the tall guy finally deigned to speak, only to hear him say faintly, "Haven't you already seen it?" As soon as these words came out, Xiao Ye was suddenly shocked. Seen it? Could it be referring to the golden solution in the alchemy furnace? In the moment he came back to his senses, Xiao Ye's face suddenly darkened. He wanted to confirm what exactly was being refined in that furnace. Unexpectedly, the tall guy actually laughed strangely. The laughter was extremely eerie, even worse than crying. Lao Ba was a little annoyed. "You don't answer when asked, but instead you're acting crazy and laughing foolishly here. You really need to be taught a lesson." He patted Xiao Ye's shoulder and said, "Let me handle this." Xiao Ye was just about to speak, but was interrupted by Lao Ba with a gesture. Since it's already confirmed that this tall guy is not human, then there's no need to hold back. Originally, Chu Wu was not meant to deal with humans. So before, when he fought, he always didn't dare to go all out. Looking at it now, this doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. Lao Ba squatted down and directly rolled up his trouser legs. Then he started to quickly rub his calf with that back scratcher. If someone didn't understand the situation, they would think he was acting crazy. Actually, this strange behavior was precisely a precursor to Lao Ba's signature skill being activated. In his early years at Li Songguan, Lao Ba began to learn Chu Wu's unique secret technique, Jing Lei Meridian Thunder, and the method of performing Jing Lei is to gather true ki and inject it into the meridians, and then guide the body's impulses to the arms, then using the palm as a firearm, and and fingers as firing pins to create the power of thunder. But unfortunately, Lao Ba's back scratcher is never out of his hand. He even thoughtfully gave it a name called Bukyu Ren. Don't need to ask others. Therefore, the practice of Jing Lei got stuck. At that time, Zhao couldn't stand it anymore, saying, "How can you possibly rub out Jing Lei with a back scratcher?" But unexpectedly, Lao Ba turned his gaze to his legs, and then the Macho Iron Leg version Jing Lei that shocked Li Songguan was born. At this moment, Lao Ba's hairy legs were already radiating electric light, making people marvel. And after he finished posing, he didn't say a word, and directly swung a right whip kick towards the tall guy's forehead. Originally, I thought Lao Ba's strongest skill was the back scratcher in his hand, until he revealed this electrically charged hairy leg. Did I understand the origin of his title, Strongest Chu Wu? Because traditional Chu Wu all use true ki gathered on the arms to practice Jing Lei. But he was different, insisting on not letting go of the back scratcher in his hand, and also developed a unique Macho Iron Leg Jing Lei by taking a different path. And the power of legs is inherently strong. The only drawback is that toes are not good for acupressure points. So at this moment, Lao Ba launched a right whip kick towards the village chief's son. But he didn't expect. This swift blow was actually directly blocked by the tall guy. Moreover, this guy even took advantage of Lao Ba's second sweep kick to launch a fierce punch, heavily pounding on Lao Ba's instep. Lao Ba immediately felt pain. He was a little shocked. After all, no one expected this guy's strength to be so formidable as well. And Zhao at this moment was watching the two of them spin and jump not far away. Perhaps the rain outside should be heavy at this moment. However, he still reminded Lao Ba, saying that the reason this guy is so powerful is because he can instantly concentrate Shange Hui in a certain part of his body. Lao Ba was a bit speechless after hearing this. Could you say something I haven't already figured out? Xiao Ye immediately calmed down. He carefully stared at Gao Lao's figure. He noticed that this guy was already wielding the Shange Hui as if it were an extension of his own arm. Lao Ba didn't know what other trump cards this guy had up his sleeve. He could only observe as they fought. Thinking of this, he once again unleashed the power of thunder, striking directly at Gao Lao's neck. If Gao Lao couldn't defend against this move, then death would be certain. At the same time, he also wanted to test whether Gao Lao's Shange Hui was truly inexhaustible. But to his surprise, just as he was about to strike, his ankle was once again firmly grabbed. Then, before he could even react, he was directly thrown out. And so, this booming crash startled Zhang Zha and the others once again. They had already guessed that it was their master and the others engaged in a fierce battle. So, in order not to cause trouble, they decided to stay here and continue waiting. But looking at the miner's corpse in front of them, the two of them fell into contemplation once more. They didn't understand why the mastermind behind this would want to assemble such a tall corpse. But just then, from the broken joint, both of them simultaneously discovered a problem. Perhaps this wasn't just a simple corpse assembly, but rather a certain degree of modification had been carried out. However, just as they were pondering, they forgot to observe what was behind them. The sudden, sharp pain caught Zhang Zha off guard. He turned his head sharply and realized that the upper half of the dry corpse had somehow crawled behind him and delivered a blow that could be fatal. Moreover, the long blade had plunged into Zhang Zha's back by at least half a foot and carved out a terrifying bloody gash. At the same time, Gao Lao on the other side seemed to have sensed something. When the dust settled, Zhao asked Lao Ba with concern if he was injured. Fortunately, Lao Ba was physically strong, although the instep of his foot had turned bluish-purple. In reality, he was not seriously hurt. However, the key point was not Lao Ba's injury, but his latest discovery. Because in the charged-up strike just now, he clearly felt that this guy's Shange Hui was ridiculously strong. If he were to evaluate it, it would be that the guy in front of them is the most dangerous Shang they had encountered so far. It's truly unbelievable that a dry corpse that had been broken into pieces could still suddenly attack and injure someone. This was something that no one had anticipated when that long blade deeply pierced into Zhang Zha's back. Ma Leo Dao let out a hysterical cry of grief. He kicked the dry corpse to the corner of the wall and stomped on it repeatedly until all the gold grains buried in its temples had fallen off. Did he finally feel relieved and turn back? But at this moment, Zhang Zha was already lying on the ground, extremely weak. He looked at the shocking wound on his brother Zhang's back, his heart filled with fear. Ma Leo Dao desperately called out, telling brother Zhang not to fall asleep, while rummaging through his robes, trying to help Zhang Zha stop the bleeding first. However, at this moment, Zhang Zha's breathing became increasingly weak. Even everything in front of him began to blur. Perhaps sensing the change in situation here, that Gao Lao unexpectedly revealed a hint of disdain. And on Lao Ba and Xiao Ye's side, they were also stunned at the same moment. It wasn't because they sensed Zhang Zha's misfortune, but they were shocked by Gao Lao's golden hands. At that moment, they both guessed the origin of these golden hands. If they guessed correctly, these golden hands must have been forged by Gao Lao using gold infused with Shange Hui. In this way, this guy could control Shang, while also gaining even greater Shange Hui. Could it be said that? But
莫非是黄金和商会有着什么潜在的关联吗？
before the two could figure it out,
和之前一样。
he faintly repeated those words. You will die here. Looking at this guy's annoying appearance, Lao Ba kicked him without any hesitation. Back and forth, it's just these two sentences. Damn it, haven't you learned to say anything else? But he had just finished complaining when he realized his leg had been grabbed. Then, Gao Lao's golden fist came whistling over. Shocked, Lao Ba had no choice but to push off and quickly create distance. But even so, he still took a solid punch. Seeing this, Zhao immediately lowered his stance. He prepared to rush up and pull Lao Ba back. Unexpectedly, Lao Ba stretched out a hand, stopping Xiao Ye's support again. He wiped the blood from his mouth and nose, feeling somewhat disgruntled because he hadn't been forced to this point in a long time. Then he rolled up the trouser leg of his other leg. If the Jing Lei power of one leg wasn't enough, then let's Let's try this double blade wind and fire wheel version of Jing Lei. A flash of lightning was seen, and Lao Ba flipped and flew into a kick. Both legs, wrapped in rolling thunder, smashed over one after the other. Gao Lao, shocked, could only forcibly block. But when Lao Ba's two legs chopped down, they directly shattered his golden hands. Lao Ba didn't stop there. Instead, he leapt into the air and unleashed another ultimate killing move. This strike can be described as ruthless and decisive. It directly stomped Gao Lao into the stone wall. Then Lao Ba followed up with another strike, stomping towards Gao Lao's chest. He thought that after this set of attacks, Gao Lao would be crippled even if not dead. But unexpectedly, Lao Ba's leg couldn't be retracted, and Gao Lao seized the opportunity to grab Lao Ba's body. If he guessed correctly, this guy was going to use his fists again. Seeing the situation was bad, Lao Ba hurriedly pushed hard against the stone wall to retreat backwards. But unexpectedly, Gao Lao was also pulled out by the force. The two faced each other, seemingly in a stalemate. Unexpectedly, Lao Ba suddenly smiled and made a gesture. Because before the battle began, he had told Xiao Ye to watch Gao Lao's weaknesses from the side and choose the right moment to strike. So at this moment, Xiao Ye burst forth, directly flashing behind Gao Lao. Then grabbing this guy's head, he delivered a round of electric shock therapy. After all, the temples are the Shang's vital point. With Xiao Ye taking action, it seemed this battle should come to a perfect end. At this moment, Lao Ba was overjoyed, as if he had already seen the appearance of victory. However, before he finished laughing, Gao Lao's fist brushed past his ear. At that moment, both of them froze in shock. How can this guy still move? Wasn't the power of Jing Lei already used to pour into this guy's temples? When Gao Lao broke free from the two and slowly stood up, Xiao Ye finally realized something was wrong. This guy had actually sealed his own temples with gold. Something's not right. As a Shang, how could he know this? Could it be said that this guy had fought many Chu Wu before? Is that why he knows his own vital point and the methods of Chu Wu? But now is not the time to ponder these things. The two tacitly attacked at the same time, not wanting to give Gao Lao any chance to breathe. At the moment Lao Ba attacked, Xiao Ye also rushed out suddenly, while also holding a golden needle in his hand. But unexpectedly, just as he was about to stab the vital point, Gao Lao suddenly turned his body aside, using his golden hand to block this attack. Furthermore, he also used the hole in the middle of his golden hand to forcefully pull, dragging the golden needle's direction away from the fatal point range. Good heavens, this Gao Lao was willing to risk his eye to defend against the golden needle. Truly ruthless. But something even more terrifying was yet to come. Lao Ba and Xiao Ye attacked simultaneously, but were unexpectedly blocked by Gao Lao, one hand for each of them. The next moment, both of them were simultaneously sent flying by a strange force. As soon as he landed, Lao Ba anxiously called out, "Lao Zhao," hoping he was all right. But the scene before them made both of their hairs stand on end, because a trace of electric light was also surging on Gao Lao's hands. Looking again at Gao Lao's subsequent techniques and moves, wields. Both of them were instantly shocked and bewildered. At that moment, they simultaneously understood one thing. It wasn't that Gao Lao had fought many Chu Wu before, but that he himself was a Chu Wu in life.